morning. Good morning. I'm very happy to welcome you all to the special webinar on quality control and traceability in rural supply chain. This webinar is organized by Extension Africa with support from AGRA. My name is Ochigbo Alex. I'm a thematic coordinator with Extension Africa, manned with structure utilization. I must say that I'm very, very excited to have you all join us on this webinar. And this is because together with our wonderful speakers that we have joining us, we will explore how we can ensure traceability across the value chains and to see how we can maintain quality of raw agricultural produce. So at this point, I will enjoy us to, get hold of our writing materials because I know it's really going to be exciting. There will be important keynotes for us to take and to step it down to our colleagues who are not here, and most especially the farmers that we serve. So if you're just joining us again, my name is Ochigbo Alexander, and I'll be moderating this webinar on quality control and traceability in rural supply chain. Joining us on this webinar are 4 amazing speakers. They will be serving as panelists and also answer to some of the questions that we have. And then also I would enjoin us to keep our microphones mute so as to avoid background noises. There's going to be a question and answer segment towards the end of the webinar, so we can drop our questions there, our comments, and it will be addressed. And if you have any questions, comments, you can just use the chat box. So I think without further wasting time, I will go ahead to have our speakers introduce themselves, starting with you, Mr. Elias Soisha. Can you please tell us about yourself and what you do? Thank you so much.
Hello, good morning, Alex. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning. Thank you for having me, Alex. My name is Elias Soisha. I'm a business development expert with expertise in agricultural value chain, enhancing agricultural value chain industrialization. I specialize in developing partnership, facilitating investment, and fostering collaboration among industry players in Nigeria, the Sahel region. I have had the opportunity of working closely with farmers, and I'm also responsible with the National Citizenship Association of Nigeria, as well as the Federation of Agricultural Commodity Association of Nigeria, which is a farmer-based organization with objective of enhancing the capacity and ability of our farmers, and also building strong industrial collaboration among players. I had the opportunity of being a member of some high-level committee, including the Presidential Task Force, an interministerial task force on excessive chemical residue for sesame seed, where we're working with institutions like NICET, Series is also on this board, and all other relevant government agencies and stakeholders to enhance other agricultural community to meet with the international standard. These, among other communities, also privileged to be a part of, including the steering committee on the WTO standard and trade development facility, STDM, as well as the presidential committee on zero reject for export. It's my pleasure to be here with you. I look forward to participating in this insightful conversation alongside my fellow panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eliasu. It's very good to have you join us as an aggregator and an exporter. I know how you navigate quality sourcing on a daily basis. For one, remembered working with you as far back as in, I think, 2021. I still remember in September where you deployed your technology, which was a thing called Caption Solutions, where were able to ensure quality and traceability for over 300 cotton farmers, 300,000 cotton farmers across 30 states in Nigeria. That technology went a long way in helping our farmers to, to be traceable, the cotton that they produce, and down to the location where it was produced. So it's remarkable seeing what you're doing to make Nigeria greener and also what you've been able to achieve. And I'm very happy and honored to have you join us on this call. Thank you. While you were introducing yourself, your camera was off. I trust that the attendees and our audience would have loved to see your face so as to put an image to who is speaking. Thank you so much. I think we can now move to the next speaker, which is Mrs. Oluyemisi Ranloye. Please, Ma, can you introduce yourself? Thank you, Ma.
Good afternoon. Is it afternoon? Good day, everyone. Good day, everyone, and it's nice to be here. My name is Oluyemisi Iranloye, and I am the founder CEO of Sultry International Company Limited. Sultry is into the production of food-grade starch, high-quality cassava flour, glucose, and sorbitol, and we work with farmers. We run an inclusive business where farmers are in the center stage of our daily operation. So we, up to today, have about 16,000 farmers in our network that have been trained and produce our raw material for our daily operations. We are in the heart of Oyo State, in Ado-Awaye, Isai local government of Oyo State, and we are happy to be here to share some of the things we've learned over the last 20 years of being in the cassava industry. So it's nice to be here. I look forward to very beautiful deliberations. Thank you.
Exciting. Thank you so much, Madam Yemisi. I was also, looking at what you have done, your company, how you've impacted on of over 100,000 families. But most especially for me was how you've been able to, put not just Nigeria, but Africa on the global map. Your company being the first in Africa and then the second in the world to produce cassava-based sorbitol, starch, and glucose is really, really remarkable. And for the fact that you've been able to create over 1,000 jobs, direct and indirect, for people around the community you serve is, fascinating. So thank you for joining us and for what you do for Nigeria and Africa at large. We'll move to our third speaker now. Joining us also on the call is Dr. Samantha Anibabrezi. She's not Nigerian, and we are very happy to have you. Dr. Samantha, can we get to meet you? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I don't know if you can hear me and see me. I'm half blind, so without my glasses, I can't see myself, but I hope you can see me. My name is Dr. Anibabrezi Samantha. I'm a medical doctor by profession. I'm Ugandan, 25 years of age. How I, tie into the whole agriculture sector is I am a co-founder and a CEO for Freza Nanotech, which is a startup, a nanotechnology-based startup, whereby we preserve fruits and vegetables just basically fresh produce using nanotechnology. So we basically study enzymatic processes involved in deterioration and rot, and that is where we target our preservation method. Yeah, that is basically a summary about me. Thank you very much for having me on this call, and I can't wait to learn from the rest of the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samantha. I would say that for us at Extension Africa, we have, turned to women and youth to drive our model, which is the Farmer Business Associate model. That's the FBM model. And I'm really motivated as well. I am sure the audience too are well motivated. Having a young innovator like you join us, you've transitioned from the medical field, and now I'll say you're in the agricultural field, and for your immense contribution to the community yourself. It is highly motivating, and we are super excited and honored that you're joining us on this webinar. Thank you so much. And then I think last but not the least, we will have the fourth speaker, Mr. Emmanuel Neji, introduce himself and tell us what he's doing. Over to you, Mr. Emmanuel Neji.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, eminent ladies and gentlemen. I know from my video you can see I'm in a car. Sorry, I've been on the move. It's been several audits back to back, and that's what I do. My name is Neji Manuel. I'm the head of certifications at NICENAT Limited. We're a company that does certifications, international certifications, basically. And this is especially when you talk about voluntary certifications like organic certifications, Global Gap, Rainforest Alliance, Fair Trade, food safety certifications, and a gamut of other certifications that the market is asking for. I've been doing this for close to 10 years. I'm an auditor, and most of the time I'm a fields person. And because I have to go here and there, visiting a lot of operations to see how we can provide certification for people to be able to comply with international standards and best practices. And I'm happy to say over the years, it's been quite an experience. And it's also given me an opportunity to see how we can put a lot of products and commodities from Nigeria on the radar in the international market. I'm happy to say among notable achievements we've been able to achieve over the years is being able to enlist Nigeria among countries that can export honey to the EU. So that's one remarkable achievement. And I've worked with many value chains, including soybean, cashew, shea, hibiscus, sesame, name it, a lot of products. We have a lot of potential in this country. I'm very happy to also see other members on the panel. Most of them are people that I've met and worked with, and I'm very excited to see that we are driving a lot of impact in this sector and in our country, Nigeria, and Africa as a whole. And I'm honestly looking forward to having a very fruitful and engaging conversation. I hope to learn a lot during our session today. And well done to you also, Mr. Alex, moderating. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mr. Neji. I would even say you've really been a bit modest with your introduction. Mr. Neji is the only ECOSAT auditor that we have in West Africa. I've worked closely with him for at least 2 years, and I can say Mr. Neji is an authority in international agricultural certification and also a major in organic agriculture. So very happy to have the 4 of our speakers join us on this section. And if you're just joining us, my name is Uchigba Alex. I'm moderating this section. And the theme is quality control and traceability in rural supply chains. I think we can get started. This webinar will be we'll champion this webinar, and the discussions will be centered around 4 key components. The first is quality at farm gate. How can we ensure quality of agricultural productions at the farm gate before they get to the factory or the marketplace? And then the second is for us to look at traceability and standards to ensure standards of processing and also farm produce. And then the third component will look at the challenges and issues with compliance as it has to do with quality control and traceability. And then lastly, it's innovation. what is the future of the supply chain? What innovations are on ground to ensure that, the supply chain is very effective and it meets the required quality? And so to that, I think we can start right away. For those that are joining us, please, there's a lot you have to take down so you can step it down to the farmers to serve. So quality at farm gate. How can we ensure quality at farm gate at farm gate and also to market? And I think this is a very good section that it's very important that we dive into. And as the saying goes, ladies first. So at this point, I would want to start with you, Madam Yemisi. How do you work with farmers to maintain quality before the raw materials gets to your processing facility as an agro processor?
Thank you. That's a very nice question. For us, working with farmers start from the inception during the planting. So we have extension officers that work with farmers that are already grouped into clusters, and we have usually one field officer to about 100 or 150 farmers, and then the field officer works closely with them and profile them, get to their KPI and get the location where they live, get their guarantors, get their farm map out, and then we actually provide them with the seedlings. To date, from the last 15 years, Sotri has provided up to 1.5 billion naira worth of cassava stem to farmers free. Some have been supported by organizations like AGRA, 2Scale, IDH, but then we have been able to help to reduce the amount of bad stem, cassava stem that is out there with the farmers, and we give them the new stems. So because we are intentional about what the farmers plant, we are able to trace to say, we gave you 419 variety, we gave you Baba 50 variety, we gave you 3752 variety. So you bring the cassava of the variety that we gave you. So traceability starts from the planting for us. And so we monitor what the farmers plant. And once it's 10 years and the yields are already dropping, the farmer is due for another replacement. So basically, traceability for us starts from what the farmers plant, and they are being monitored from the start. Two, one of the other things we do is also to monitor the kind of herbicides that the farmers use. So we ensure that they use herbicides that are approved by World Health Organization, so that the cassava that comes in does not have pesticides or remnants of chemicals in them. So these are the things that we monitor, that the field officers monitor, to ensure that the raw material that comes to our factory is of compliance with international standard, so that when we use it to produce products, they don't have remnants of pesticides, remnants of chemicals, remnants of unwanted harmful chemicals in them. And so when we produce, we are also able to deliver good quality international standard products to our buyers.
Wow, this is remarkable. Thank you so much, Madam Yemisi. Trying to relate this also, what you do with what we do at Extension Africa. We also have a system in place where we profile our farmers just to ensure the line of traceability, map their farmlands, build their capacity on, trainings that are tailored to not just general capacity building, but also their production activities. After we do that, we ensure compliance to M&E, and then also ensure traceability and perhaps even recovery, depending on how we are serving them. And then also for us, capacity building is very, very key in addition to what you've just spelled out. So we have over one extension worker attending to 200 farmers. to ensure quality and also traceability. So thank you so much for your submission. I can see the reactions coming in from the audience, and it's getting exciting already. Next, I will come to you, Mr. Ilyasu. As an aggregator and an exporter, from your end, what are the most common quality issues you've seen when sourcing from rural supply chains? Okay, sorry, Mr. Ilyasu, if you're speaking, I think you're muted.
Okay, sorry. I believe you can hear me now, right?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. So just I want to seek your indulgence. Just my friend in AG, I'm also on the move. Driving somewhere in Yamoussoukro in Cote d'Ivoire. I mean, actually going to the field as well. And I think I have a couple of farmers waiting for me in a place called Boate, Cote d'Ivoire. I mean, similar to what we are discussing around traceability in rural supply chain. As you have made mention, um, I my activities, I mean, or my operation has a lot of link with smallholder farmers. I've been sourcing commodities from smallholder farmers, uh, you know, to ensure traceability in what we do. So I want to seek your indulgence, and I hope network will be kind to me and allow me participate in this session. So to answer your questions, there are a couple of quality challenges uh, in our rural supply chain. And most of these quality issues are mostly prevalent at post-harvest handling and management due to lack of knowledge on post-harvest handling and management, and sometimes due to lack of infrastructure. As you know, our farming operation is largely dominated by smallholder farmers who, I mean, their operation is largely manual with little utilization of, mechanization. Uh, they do not have access to some relevant farm input to assist them in harvesting their produce. So I want to give you an example with sesame seed, right? Um, Farmers in Nigeria, not just in Nigeria, in many parts of Africa, are cultivating this commodity manually. Let's speak to the post-harvest issues that we are talking about. The general practice by smallholder farmers right now is cutting the um, plant manually with sickle after it has reached maturity, and they will allow it, they will put it on the ground for 2, 3, 4 days to allow it to dry. And when they are putting it on the ground, they are putting it on bare ground because they do not have enough money to even maybe buy, some trampolines or material like that that they could have put it on to prevent it from being contaminated with soil. And when they come to sort of pack the seeds, one issue is they pack it together with sand and all other sort of foreign materials, including debris, which could have been contaminated with microtoxins, salmonella, and things like that. Um, and secondly, they even tend to do some part of their produce, right? Because some of the seeds that will have been spilled on the ground could be very, very difficult to pack. So these are some of the challenges we are facing, which is affecting the quality, um, uh, quality state of this produce that we normally buy from smallholder farmers, the rural supply chain. Another issue is um, sometimes lack of knowledge to know some of the side effects on some chemical. We now have instances where some farmers are applying some sort of pesticide to help them fast track drying process on some of this produce. And by doing so, you have succeeded in fast drying your produce, but at the end, you have destroyed the quality of your produce by increasing the chemical residue in that. This is also a big challenge, and as I may have mentioned during my introduction, and of course, as you may have seen in my profile, um, the federal government has now set up a committee which is being chaired by the Minister of Trade and Investment with all relevant government regulatory agencies as well as stakeholders like myself. Energy also is, or rather, NICED is also part of that committee to look at some of these issues that are, affecting or, increasing the chemical residue level in some farm produce. So this is one of the major challenge actually with respect to quality. Secondly, there is no consistency in the rural supply chain due to lack of infrastructure. That is why many a times you have a disrupted supply chain because there is no proper structure that will support farmers to sort of store their produce and sell it when they might want to sell. Due to the fact that there is no proper storage facility that the smallholder farmers can leverage in storing some of these their commodities in good qualities. One, they end up selling their produce at farm gate, which result in them getting just a peanut uh, compared to the value they ought to have gotten if it was offered appropriately in the market. Secondly, many at times, due to the lack of that infrastructure I mentioned about, farmers do not have a safe and secure places to store their produce. So even those that will keep their produce, they end up storing the produce in facilities that are not well prepared for the storage. Also contributes in getting the produce being contaminated by some foreign material. That is why we have high prevalence of salmonella contamination in a number of our produce, including sesame seeds, including peanuts, including a whole lot of other commodities also that we produce and export. So these are some of the challenges, and I think I know there will be some follow-up questions. So I would like to stop here and allow for others to contribute. Thank you.
This is very insightful, Mr. Ilyasu. And I think one thing is key, right? Capacity building in the area of, post-harvest management and handling. And that's one of the things we are championing at Extension Africa, where we ensure that our farmers' capacity and knowledge is well built on how to properly harvest, and then follow through with the post-harvest management techniques, right? Because it's very important. And to this, we've been able to achieve about a 20% reduction in contamination at field levels and for the farmers that we serve. And I am very excited that you're also working with Mr. Neji as stakeholders to ensure that farmers across Nigeria produce what a quality produce and also that are traceable. And looking at it, I think Extension Africa will fit into this. And if you can also extend more like a partnership to us, is something would worth it. Now, I would move to our third speaker, and Dr. Samantha. And Dr. Samantha, looking at the submission of Madam Yemisi and Mr. Ilyasu, one would want to ask that how is your solution, that's Fraser Nanotech, right? How's your solution helping farmers to reduce these post-harvest quality issues right at the farm gate?
Thank you very much. Honestly, listening to the previous speakers has made me realize that the world is so similar, despite of where you are or what country you're in or what location. We're so similar, especially in Africa. And I think one key thing to take away from this is that there's nothing like giving someone power at the start of a value chain. So the start of it is a very crucial part, is a very crucial bit of the value chain. So you can create a lot of impact at the start of a value chain versus in the middle or at the end of it. So when you can create impact in the middle or at the end of it, but the best place to curb something is at the start of it. So when you look at Fraser Nanotech, for instance, our aim for farmers is to help them preserve from the beginning. So the nature of our solution, the way it works, as well as the usability of it, it looks at the start of the chain. So we want to look at giving the farmer the power to preserve right from the point of harvest. That's a very key thing for us. It seems like a very small entity, but it's very intentional and it's very targeted to have these farmers preserve their produce right from the start, right from the beginning. So at the point of harvest, that is where we want to target farmers, right? So we want them to preserve right from the point of harvest. When you look at food processors, when you look at agro processors, we want to preserve the taste. We want to give them the ability to preserve the taste of the food, the natural taste in its natural form. So that kind of quality gives them power when they're selling to, let it be a factory, a food processing factory. If they have the ability to keep the natural taste of the vegetable, of the fruit, that is power to them. And so that's what we look at targeting at Fraser Nanotech. So for us, we look at enzymatology. We look at how do we extend shelf life by slowing down these enzymes. And when we slow down the enzyme process, then we are able to extend that shelf life. So the target is to, number one, keep them fresh longer. And number two, keep them in their natural state, right? Natural state in regard to how the membrane is, how the covering is, the look of it, because we know that as you go up the chain, when you're selling, there's let it be vegetables or let it be fruits. When you're selling, your bidding power comes from how good your fruit looks. And then when it comes to agro processors selling to different industries, it comes to the taste. So we want to look at the preservation, we want to look at the look of the fruit and vegetable. We also want to look at the taste of it. So for us, that is how we that is where we come in as Fraser Nanotech. So just a takeaway is there's something powerful in curbing a problem at the start of it. And that is what Fraser aims to do. So we want to curb it at the start of it. I think also an important thing to point out is that with Fraser, when we started, it was an issue of we can give you a solution without refrigeration. So we were anti-refrigeration, not necessarily against it, but we were a competitor. But now we do both with and without refrigeration. So we've done tests with Fraser whether you're having you're using refrigeration or not using refrigeration, you can still use freezer right now where we are with our innovation. So that is also a very powerful tool for farmers. And still, as you go up the value chain for exporters, so when you're using cold chain and when you're not using cold chain, freezer can still be a huge advantage. So we've run all these experiments, we've run tests with different exporting companies, and it has been such a good outcome to see that you will see a huge difference with your exported goods with freezer than without it. So yeah, that is a key thing for us. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, and Dr. Samantha. Your technology, I would say, sounds very transformative and innovative. You can see the reactions from the audience, and I know that we'll have a lot of questions for you towards the section. So thank you so much for the submission. And for those that just recently joined, the webinar is on quality control and traceability in rural supply chains. We have 4 excellent speakers that are joining us. Sector expert have Mr. Neji Emmanuel, Dr. Samantha, Mr. Iliasu, and Madam Oluyemisi. Now we just move to the second segment, which is on traceability and standard. And I would want to start with you. Apologies, Mr. Neji, but I would want to start with Madam Yemisi on this. Madam Yemisi, looking at your submission on what you put in place to ensure quality at the farm gate before they get to your processing facility, and then tying this back to traceability. Traceability is becoming very critical, and one would want to ask that, how does traceability affect competitiveness in your operation? And then what system have you been able to put in place to ensure traceability?
Okay, thank you very much. Traceability is very key, especially when you are dealing with agro-product raw material. Any production that involves agricultural raw material, you need traceability, especially in this world of where there are different chemicals and all that go into the production of different products. So like I said earlier in my first submission, that we start from the raw material, that is the stem that is being planted. But then we also, this step is key even to how much we buy and how much we sell. Because if we are able to help farmers to plant very good quality stem that is traceable, then we can get the farmers to get very good yield and very good quality. So they can supply us starch, cassava with very high starch content that can help us to be able to sell at competitive price, and then also help farmers to get good money, because they are now able to get good yield that can make them get more cash, more naira per hectare, and then we can also translate that to our customers in terms of competitiveness. So traceability is so key in the center of an agro-processing company, and it determines whether you are making profit or you are not making profit, because it surrounds your quality. It has to do with your quantity as well, and also the quality of what you are producing. Now, it also has to do with your certifications. You practically can't get any certification done if you cannot prove that you know where all your raw materials are coming from. So it's like the win-win for any agro business to be able to trace where their raw materials are coming from properly. For the multinationals that we sell to, like the of the beverage companies that we sell to, they require that we know where our raw material is coming from. And so that's also one of the motivations that make us to take the pain to be able to trace where the raw materials are coming from and be part of what seed is being planted. And that also goes for things like maize or soya or cocoa or whatever. It's it's in the center of who you will sell to. Who you will sell to is directly proportional to what you plant. Because if you plant recognized seed that can be traced, you are likely going to sell at a higher price, even as Nigeria, than just a random product that you don't know what seed was planted, who planted it, when was it planted, by who, and all of that. So whether farmers make money or they won't make money is, I believe, is one of the factors is how traceable is their seed, and whether a factory is going to break even or leave the test of time is also directly proportional to how traceable is the raw material that that company is using to make production. So I believe that traceability is key in terms of profitability, longevity of the farmer's business, longevity of the company that is producing, and also even profitability of the business as well. Thank you.
Excellent submission. I can't agree less with you. Profitability is key. Traceability is key to profitability, the integrity of the company, market access, and also accountability. Thank you so much, Ma, for that submission. Next will be to you, Mr. Neji. Apologies for keeping you this late, but I think it's the right time you call me. What I would want to ask, what framework exists to support traceabilities, and then where are the biggest gaps between policy and actual practice? So what are the framework that exist based on your operations to support traceability? What are the biggest gaps between policy and practice? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. And thank you so much to the wonderful panelists that are here. Let me just confirm that my voice is very clear. Is my network okay?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. Now, when we talk about frameworks that exist to support traceability and what the gaps might be between the policy making and actual practice, for me, one of the things I've strongly realized is that wherever you have absence of standards, it's just like wherever there are no laws, chaos is bound to be the order of the day. That's one thing I've realized. And so when it comes to framework, one of the key things that we've identified is very, very crucial is that it's important to have standards that guide whatever value chains or whatever productions that people are into. I listened to the other panelists and they made their submissions in a very excellent and remarkable way, beginning with what Mrs. Yamisi said about quality of seeds as well as issue of pesticide residues, and also what Mr. Ilyasu said about quality of commodities when it comes to sourcing, including the issues of adulteration, contamination, whether intentional or otherwise. We see a lot of things happening on the fields. And what Dr. Samantha said about the importance of interrupting the process of deterioration and spoilage using nanotechnology. When you look at all of these, one good way to tie it together is that all of this can be put together in a standard. What I've seen from experience happen in other parts of the world is whenever they have a challenge with any value chain, what they simply do is they put a standard together that addresses the issue from end to end. Just to give us some very notable examples, one of the things I've seen in Nigeria, just to digress a little bit, one of the things I've seen in our own environment here is that most of the time, value chain actors, including farmers especially, farmers think that it's the government that should make laws. Farmers think that it's government agencies like SON, NAFDAC, and the rest of them that should make laws. Yes, they have laws to make, but part of the things that you would also see is that in other parts of the world, there are standards that are actually driven by the producers themselves. There are standards that are driven by private actors. If you go to the US, for instance, there is an association that is called the American Spice Trade Association. What they did as a way of ensuring traceability and standards in their value chain in the spice sector was to come together as associations to put together standards that would guide their production, including post-harvest handling and whatever activities that happen after harvest. And that really worked well for them. The same has happened in the EU with the European Spice Association. These are private associations that have come together to work together with other public actors, other value chain actors to put together standards that would help to develop the system. So one important framework that we can look at is the fact that when you look at all of the value chains, there are associations that exist across the value chains. That is one important framework. That is one important structure that can be tapped into. One of the things I remembered us doing some years ago with respect to this issue of having standards that guide each of the value chains. One of the things we did years ago in the organic sector was to speak to one of the associations, the big organic association in Nigeria. That's the National Organic Agriculture Practitioners Network. We call them NOAN. Now, we spoke to them and we said, it's important for you to have a standard that you can even look at after domestication. You can even look at getting an equivalence with standards that are obtainable internationally. Because what people do is they develop their own standards, and then you can go with your standard to the international market and you seek for some sort of equivalence, collaboration with international actors. You are able to get an equivalence with them, so that when people comply with the standards that have been developed locally, the same standard can also be recognized as being equivalent to standards in the US, in the EU, and all of that. That's what countries are doing to be able to put their own producers, to put their processors, to put all those that are acting at different parts of the value chain at a position of advantage. So if you ask me, I think the gap here, to answer the second question, the gap between policy and actual practice is that there hasn't really been a handshake between the people making policy and the people who are at the rural level, the actual farmers who are supposed to utilize those standards. Yes, from time to time, they have stakeholders engagement to bring these people together. But in the long run, the private actors most of the time may not have been contributing immensely as they should in the development of those standards. And if they are part of it, if they are part of the development of those standards, it would go a long way to ensure that that gap is bridged, so that we no longer have a lot of policies that are on the shelves but are not being used. That's how to bridge the gap. And then the other framework that we also have is when it comes to the presence of certification bodies. One of the things Mrs. Yamisi said in the course of her submission is that when you want to export your products and you want to get certification, one of the key things that are required is traceability. But even before you get certification, it's important that there is a certification body that can confirm that you have actually aligned with the requirements of the market you want to export to. That's why certification bodies are important. And that's where we fit in as NISAT. What we've been doing over the years is getting a lot of companies, mostly owned by Nigerians, certified so that they can export their products to the international market. I remember when we started back in 2016, 2017, there were only 2 companies in Nigeria that had organic certification, and they were not Nigerian owned. But as I speak to you today, we've been able to get, there are close to 50 companies now that are owned by Nigerians and they are exporting. You talk about organic certification, you talk about fair trade certification, you talk about global gap certification. It's important for us to begin to, wake up and realize that we cannot exist in isolation. If we want to export our products to those markets, then we have to consider the standards that they are asking for. And I think one of the key things that we have to do, and this platform is a very good one, one of the key things that we have to do is to come together, rally around, and see how we can actually develop standards together with the main actors who are the farmers. Standards that will grow to eventually be recognized all over the world. Contamination issues, seed quality issues, post-harvest handling and post-harvest losses, all of these things can all be tied into a standard. When it becomes a standard and people know that they have to comply with this, then it becomes very easy to solve the traceability issues. So that when you have a tomato processor that is sourcing tomatoes from different parts of Nigeria, from Kano, from Sokoto, from Bauchi or Adamawa, or from Jos, or from Benue, from those different places, you know that you are aggregating the same quality. As I listen to Mr. Elias speak, I I almost shed tears, especially when he was talking about the adulteration that happened in the space. You know, one of the key things that we can do to address all of these issues is to go closer to the farmers, sensitize them on the importance of complying with these standards, help them to put together standards that they can comply with, and hold them through the process. They will be able to see that it pays more to demonstrate integrity than to give in to sharp practices. And when we do that, we'll be able to put Nigeria and Africa on the map. We have all of the potential. We have all of the potential. I can go on and on and on, but for want of time, let me just draw the curtains here. I hope I've been able to speak to the questions that you asked, my moderator.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, brilliantly. You've been able to do that. Thank you. And I love the collaboration between yourself and Mr. Ilyasu, how, you know, your submissions have aligned to the issue of traceability and standard. And I love the way you concluded and saying that we have to, you know, handhold and work with the farmers together to ensure we have our own local standards that we can work together with farmers. You also spoke about NOAN, that's the National Organic Agricultural Practitioners of Nigeria, and I see them as an indigenous agricultural organic, you know, compliance body. And this will now maybe I should just go over to Mr. Ilyasu and giving how your discussions have aligned. And I would want to ask Mr. Eliasu, looking at how we work around international traceability standard. Mr. Neji spoke about the EU standard. In organic, he talked about the National Organic Program, that's the NOP. And then looking at this international traceability standard and the influence it has on sourcing decisions when compared to the local ones we have in Nigeria. So how can you relate to this, that how do international traceability standards influence sourcing decisions compared to the local ones that we have?
Thank you so much, Alex. Energy, that was a very, very insightful one. I mean, I will come back to you right after this meeting. We're on the issue of setting our own standard, domesticating our own standard, and offering it to the international market to get it equivalence. Just like you, to buttress a little about what you said, when you have NOP certified, you can offer to Canadian market because the NOP requirement has been approved to be an equivalent in in Canada. The same way, when you have an EU requirement, you can equally offer it to the British market. So I think I agree with Juneji on the fact that Nigeria, we should try and develop our own standard, and get it ratified and approved at the international market, so that we don't need to struggle to be NOP certified, EU certified, JAC certified. When our farmers can just get themselves certified with our local standard, and we will be guaranteed that it will be approved at the international market with the equivalence of the NOP and the EU. So I think this is something we can focus on, and I'm happy to work with Energy Exap also to see how we can take this conversation forward. Coming back to the question you asked, the challenges are there, as we said, and I think Energy have made a strong recommendation that we need to handhold the farmers, not just farmers, we need to handhold the operators. I remember a time when Energy himself handhold me, right? Now I know all about organic certification. I know all the route you need to follow because I have taken that certification. I am one of the players in Nigeria that now have organic certification for both NOP, EU, JAC, and Canada also for three commodities: sesame, soya, and cashew. So And I know very well how energy supported in handholding, right? So I so much agree with him the need for us to handhold these farmers. And of course, now I know how this is influencing my buyer's decision. Now that I have the certification, it pretty much influencing the buyer's decision. So this also align with what Madam Yemesi have mentioned. With traceability, you get profitability. So I think I will take this uh, statement from her and I will adopt this statement, right? I will be quoting you, Madam MSC, because it really makes sense. When you have traceability, it can translate to having profitability because your traceability will very much influence your buyer's decision. Your traceability will influence the price at which the price you can attract for your commodity and for your produce. Um, so the important thing here for us as a country and as players is for us to be, I would say, deliberate in driving this, uh, in driving the traceability in our uh, agro, agro commodity space by enhancing our own operation, right? Because some of these challenges, we know them very much. I have given you an instance where pesticide is used in drying. Why is that being done? Except in environment like ours, and it's because of lack of efficient regulatory framework that will prevent farmers or aggregators into doing that. So and even um, impacting negatively in giving an unfavorable result, despite when maybe some farmers will have, put a lot of work into making sure that they produce something of good quality. And then after harvested, someone will just decide to spray pesticide just to fast track the processing, the drying procedure of the produce. So what we need to do is to be deliberate in establishing regulatory framework that will address these issues and that will institutionalize the traceability. I can give you another example, right? Okay. From last year, Nigeria has been running helter skelter in making the country EUDR compliant. Why? Because prior to when EU give the set the deadline, no one cares to create flexibility in their operation, even multinationals. No one really cares to establish flexibility in their when EU said you will no longer export to EU, you are not um, do not become compliant with EUD. And how will you do that? Is by mapping your farmland, is by establishing traceability to guarantee the buyers that there was no any deforestation activity on in your farmers operation for some period. I think about 25 years. They're talking about from 2000 from year 2000. So now we are being faced with a great challenge of losing European market, at least for five commodities: cocoa, soya, rubber, palm oil, and livestock. We are being faced with big challenges of probably losing European market. And if we lose out of the market now, who knows how many years it will take us to go back again. As you know, there are so many competitors coming up. Brazil is one of the greatest competitor for Africa, right?
Okay, I think we lost Mr. Ilyasu. So can someone please confirm if you can hear me? It's on the road, so his network is quite bad. A confirmation, please, if you can hear me.
Yes, yes, I hear you from here.
Oh, okay, thank you. So I think Mr. Elias's network is poor, but from what I've gathered, I couldn't hear him most of the time, but what I was able to gather from his submission was that balancing international standard with local standard, it is key, and we have to do this with the farmers by handholding the farmers and supporting their operation. And I think this also takes me back to you, Mr. Neji. For us at Extension Africa, right, what we've been able to put
I'm
in
back, right?
place. Yes, yes, you're
Yeah.
back.
So,
We lost you at the
yeah.
point.
Sorry. Yeah. Let me just take 1 minute to close out, right? So,
All right.
my last point was to say that looking at all these issues, looking at the opportunities also, emphasizing on what Madam MSC said, traceability will translate to profitability. I think my call will be to go with what Inaji have said, that stakeholders, we must come together to collaborate, to set up our own standard, to set up our own internal framework. I think one of the best way, right? I so much believe in this principle of having internal regulation. So we need to set up framework. We need to put down a mechanism that we can self-regulate ourselves first. That will increase the confidence of our buyers. That will build trust, and then we can look at how we can institutionalize that and how we can get it approved with the equivalence of NOP or EU or JAC. So, this will be my call on this question, and I hope I'm able to do justice to the question. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, you've been able to do justice to the questions and the take from your submission is balancing international standard with that of local standards, and we can through with this at the local level where we train things like good housing practices as well as climate smart agricultural practices. We have been able to integrate IPM and then the system of rice intensification. For our audience that are just joining us now, I know you already have questions that you want to ask. We're going to address your questions as we try to round up with the webinar. So I would call on us to drop our questions on the chat box, and then we will address it and channel it to the right speaker. And let me come back to you, Mr. Neji. Looking at the challenges that has to do with the issue of compliance with traceability and also quality, right? How can regulators better support farmers, processors, and exporters in meeting with compliance? Maybe before you respond, like I said, for us at Extension Africa, it has to do with capacity building, setting up a robust M&E system. Our platform, the FarmX, ensure that all the farmers that we are working with are traceable, right from their KYC down to the commodity they are producing, and even the off-take system that we set for them, who is off-taking from the farmers. So I would love you to respond to how can regulators better support farmers, processors, and exporters in meeting with compliance? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I'm still hopeful that my network is okay. Now, how can regulators support producers, operators generally, when it comes to being able to comply with the requirements of international standards? Now, you see, when you talk about the word regulators, the first people I get to think of, the people that come to my mind are the statutory bodies in terms of the government regulators. You talk about SON, you talk about NAFDAC, you talk about phytosanitary, that's NAQS, and the rest of them. But I also imagine that by extension, as a certification body, we are also doing some sort of regulation. Now, one important thing I think we need to do to be able to help operators with complying with requirements of international standard is to see ourselves as facilitators, to see ourselves as enablers and facilitators, and not as policemen, or if you permit me to use that word. Because most of the time, unfortunately, the approach that we take most of the time in the regulatory space is that instead of facilitating the process, instead of seeing ourselves as enablers, we see ourselves as policemen truncating the process. And that doesn't help people comply. That doesn't help farmers comply. So from our own space as a certification body, part of the things that we do is that whenever we go for audits, we always see that as an opportunity to enable export. We see that as an opportunity to enable those, whichever company it is that is being audited, to enable and facilitate the process of their exporting to the international market or doing business with the markets of interest. So that's one thing that is very, very important. Then the second thing, after we see ourselves as facilitators, is that we also need to come closer to the real value chain actors. I'm talking about the farmers, the processors, and every other person, including people who are into logistics. Anybody that plays a role in the course of the primary production or processing or handling or export of a particular product should not be far from the regulators. So the regulators should come close to them. That is the only way that the hand-holding that we've been talking about can work. That's the only way that there can be a synergy towards creating a standard or creating standards that work for everybody. So these are two important things that I strongly believe are very, very, crucial. And then part of the things that would also happen by the time we have seen ourselves as facilitators, by the time that we have gone closer to the value chain actors, the third thing that would happen is when we have our own standards, when we develop our own standards, our standards will put into consideration the peculiarities of our own environment. Part of the difficulties that we are facing when it comes to exports is because in wanting to export to the EU, in wanting to export to the US, we are simply taking standards from there and trying to comply with it straight away. But when we begin to have our own standards and the world begins to see us as a force to reckon with, we can come before tables of negotiation to say, oh, we have our own standard for good agricultural practice. We have our own standard for organic certification. And there can be a negotiation. It will be easy for producers within Nigeria to comply with our own standards because we would have already factored in our own context and the peculiarities that we have with our own environment. It then makes it easy for people to be able to comply. And then part of the things that also needs to happen is there is need for a lot of sensitization. We've been doing sensitization for close to a decade now, but in 2025, it almost feels like we've not been able to speak to like 40 or 50% of the audience. So the importance of sensitization cannot be overemphasized because there is definitely somewhere, there are places where the gospel has not been preached. So it's important for us to, always have that in mind so that we're always reaching out to stakeholders. We are always bringing people to, webinars like this where information is transferred, not only information, but correct and very important information that will move their operation from where they currently are to where they ought to be. A lot of sensitization also needs to happen in the rural areas. I'm talking about those that can come on Zoom or Zoho or Google Meet. There are a lot of people out there who can, get on platforms like this. And that's one area I would strongly commend what Extension Africa is doing, because I believe that with your network, you're able to reach out to people in the rural areas. It's important for us to continue to drum the sensitization in those rural areas, because the more they know, as one of our panelists said, once we're able to get it right from the primary production, that was Dr. Samantha, she said it right from the beginning. It's important to capture it from the beginning. If we capture it from the beginning, then there is a higher chance of getting it right. But if we don't capture it from the beginning, it becomes difficult to address certain things later in the value chain. If there is a contamination already from the start, it's difficult to rectify that, as against when we have already addressed it or prevented it from the start of the value chain. In my opinion, I believe these are the things that we need to be able to do to ease compliance with the requirements of the international market and even locally. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Neji. The point here is sensitization is key for us to ease the challenges that is associated with compliance. Thank you. Let me move to Madam Yemisi now. As an agro processor, what are the challenges you trying to stay compliant, and how do you navigate them? Hello, Mrs. Yemisi, are you still there?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was trying to put my unmute myself. Okay, so several challenges you face when you are trying to stay compliant. One of them is resistance. Okay, some farmers just feel, no, I've been planting this variety for a long time. I don't want to change. They just decide. You know, so first of all is that you have to now convince the farmers.
Okay, can I
do a demo plot? Oh, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Right now, yes, ma'am. Maybe you might want to take back. You can take the first point back again. Thank you.
Okay, so I said one of the first challenges we face when you're trying to stay compliant is that the farmers just decide they don't want to change variety, or they want to continue to plant what they're planting. And you have to do more than just talking to showing them. So you do a demo plot, and in the demo plot, you plant their own variety. You plant this new variety with better, that is cleaner than theirs, and then they're able to see the yield and they get converted. So you meet that. Two is even the rules to come. For example, we wanted to do our organic certification from EcoSat. It was that we have to do it first by ourselves before we can think of passing it on to the farmers. At that time, we were like the first to be looking at cassava, doing organic certification for cassava. So we didn't have anybody to learn from. So you have to look for information. You have to look for the documentation. We had to do it like 2 times before we were able to get certified. So one of the things that we find, one of the challenges is even to be able to have enough information that you need to be able to get compliant, to be compliant. And so that's also like a challenge, because there are rules, but then you need a document that shows you the rules. They're not readily available, like anybody wants to get organic can just go to a website and get it. Well, I see websites here and there, but they are not really very, very public. And not too many organizations are even doing these certifications to start with. 3 is the cost. Even the cost of certifications, they are not cheap. They are paying in dollars. You pay for training in dollars, you pay the certificate. So for small SMEs, it's difficult. It's out of reach. I think that somehow we should make the certifications available for people to be able to easily access. Let it not be too expensive, so that people can easily be able to do the certifications. So I think basically cost of certifications, availability of the rules, guidelines guiding the certifications. Then you also have farmers resisting your change. Okay, of course, that you can easily surmount. I think it's even more of the cost of the certifications and the availability of guidelines for these certifications.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Yemisi. So while you were talking, I was just taking down some few points, and And the challenges you've stated are critical. One, you said farmers are slow to adapt to changes. And one of the ways to help farmers out in this ways to set up demos where they can see what you're doing right from the seeds, and we're able to adopt that. Another one were inadequate information as it relates to certification, and that if this can be flexible, also the rules for farmer to see. Now, let me come back to Dr. Samantha. I know I've not really engaged you so far, but I would want you to respond to the next question and to see how you can also tie this to the submission of Madam Yemisi. So, looking at digital tools, most especially in the Ugandan market, can you say digital tools are making it easier for smallholder farmers and also processors to comply with the standards given to the submission of Madam Yemisi and to address some of the challenges she has highlighted? So what are digital tools making it easier for smallholder farmers and processors to comply with the standards? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've been listening and I've been learning a lot. No worries on engagement. I've honestly been learning so much from the panel, from the team. What I will say is in Uganda, first of all, digital platforms are so wide. And one thing to take note of, like Madame Yemisi said, is that there's a lot of resistance when it comes to compliance, especially with farmers. But I think another way to see it is that some compliance bodies are not very up to date with incorporating standards, right? Coming up with new standards, adapting, right? The adaptability is also tricky. So digital platforms really do help with adaptability. They help with, I'll give you a personal experience with Fraser Nanotech, for instance. It being an innovative solution, we've come on the scene when most of the compliance bodies in Uganda have not even created standards for our product. So we had to go through a gruesome process of developing our own standards. And for my take on that kind of issue is that these standards should be updated regularly, right? The standards should be, people should be racing to catch up with standards and not vice versa, right? So you find that most of the time the standards are catching up with like a lot of these new things on the market, a lot of these innovators on the market, and a lot of these things. So with digital platforms, it's easier to access published papers. It's easier to access a lot of things that have been written, and it's easier to know about other standards in other countries. It's easier to know about international standards, and it's easier to catch up and also create standards that are ready for the people, for the new things that are coming on board, right? So yes, digital platforms are very essential, and they do help with that resistance, because if there's information that's availed to people, resistance becomes very minimal. So information is a very key thing. And when that information is for everyone and for the general public, and in training sessions like these ones, people get to get information, people get to get knowledge, and that does help like reduce the resistance on compliance, reduce the resistance on traceability issues, but also most importantly, it helps the standards to be like up to date, and regulatory bodies are able to go ahead of the population, of the community, versus it being vice versa. So that's a very key thing. I wanted to bring in my own personal experience, because I know how gruesome it is, and I know how tiresome it is when it comes to regulation. There's so much documentation. It's so much back and forth. I'll mention that initially with Fraser, we had applied for a specific standard, and indeed we paid for it, and it's not cheap. And when it got to a certain point in regulation, they withdrew that standard and they took it back. And that's when they took us through the process of creating our own standard. And that is not an easy thing to do. So information is very key, because if we had been guided from the beginning, we would not have lost, number one, money, and also we would not have lost time, because creating a standard for yourself also takes a while. It takes about 1 to 2 years. I don't know how it is in Nigeria, but that's how it is in Uganda. It takes a long time to create a standard. So the earlier you start, the better. So yeah, I think that's what I would say about digital platforms. Information, people getting to know what to do, what are the practical steps, and regulatory bodies should provide that information for the population. What are the steps, what are the key steps to actually getting some of these standards down, and not going through back and forth gruesome processes. Yeah, I think that's one thing I'll emphasize. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted while speaking. So thank you so much, Dr. Samantha, for your submission as we head into the last segment of our discussion, and then looking how our time is fast spent. I would just want us to maybe take a few minutes to respond on how innovation, on the innovations and also the future of supply chains. So let me start with you, Mr. Neji, and then I'll come back to you, Dr. Samantha. Mr. Neji, how do you see digital innovations changing regulatory enforcement? How do you see that? Most especially how it applies to our local setting here in Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Just while you were asking the question, one example just dropped in my mind of what is happening right now. Currently, as a company, there is a partner that we got, who we've partnered with, to make compliance to traceability requirements as easy as possible. And this came on the heels of the European Union Non-Deforestation Regulation. That's the EUDR compliance that Mr. Elias was speaking about a while ago. That's compliance that affects several value chains, key value chains, including our cocoa, our soya, and other value chains. So one thing I've seen is that there is a huge potential for innovation to ease compliance to traceability requirements and even certification requirements. Because what has now happened is, what we've been able to do is, with the solution that we have for traceability with our partners, what we've been able to do is to see how we can tie it into the European Union's portal for verification of EUDR compliance. So what that means, the implication of that is, it's very easy and now seamless for us to, pass people through the process of using the software or using the application. And at the point of export, it's very easy for the enforcers in the EU to verify that these people have actually complied with the requirements. For me, I think it's a very fantastic and a very brilliant idea. And the same can also be deployed even to other value chains. So that what happens is, with this innovation, we can reduce most of the paperwork. Most of the paperwork can be reduced. It becomes very easy to search out information. Even the standards, availability of standards becomes very easy. It's very easy for people to assess those standards, when we have innovations that tie all of these together from end to end. Internally also, as a certification body, I'm talking about EcoCert now because we work with EcoCert. NICERT is in partnership with EcoCert. So internally, part of the things that we've also done is to create portals for our clients, like client service portal. That's what we call it. Now, on that client service portal, the clients are able to interact with the certification process from end to end. So beginning from application, your application to review, to all of the things that need to happen up to certification, everything can be handled on that portal, including your submission of required documents and everything. So I strongly believe that technology is the way to go when we're talking about easing the process. Because when I look back to years ago, before 2020, when it was mostly paperwork, when I go for an audit, you are handed, bunch of papers, close to 1,000, 2,000 pages, and you have to begin to sift through, you have to begin to verify, one by one. So the efficiency of the process and all of that comes with a lot of bottlenecks. But with technology, with innovation, it can be seamless. All of these, the verifications can be done within a very short time. So I strongly believe that it is the way to go. The only area I also feel that we need to strongly work on is when it comes to the affordability of these initiatives, the affordability of these innovations. Because these innovations that are coming on board now, these are new innovations. And for the average smallholder farmer, it might not be so affordable. I remember someone reached out, I think they had about 10 or 20 hectares or so, and they wanted to see if this was a solution for them. But because of all of the work that has gone into that technology, including remote sensing, which enables you to be able to zoom in and check real time what is happening on those fields within a space of 1 week, within a space of 2 weeks, you are able to see the changes in terms of the vegetation on the field. You are able to have near real-time monitoring of activities on the field. Because of all of those technologies that have been embedded in the solution, at the time, it wasn't affordable to this smallholder farmer. But one thing I want to strongly emphasize on is that this is also an opportunity for, the technology companies. We have a lot of technology companies in Nigeria, but when you look at some of the solutions that they are developing, sorry to say, but on many occasions, they are not necessarily developing solutions based on a market that already exists. I remember interacting with several persons. There are several persons that I've interacted with. There is a serious opportunity in the agriculture and the food space for technology, deployment of technology. We need more persons to go into that sector, interact with stakeholders, and identify what the gap is in the sector so that you can create a solution that is tailored to that sector. And that way people are able to buy into it and they're able to utilize your solution to meet the requirements of the market. In a nutshell, there is an opportunity for innovation, but this innovation has to, there has to be more investment in the area of innovation, and it has to be affordable so that the smallholder farmers who I believe form major part of our emphasis today are able to afford it. Otherwise, it might just be for the big companies, for the multinationals. Thank you so much. Appears he might be muted, my moderator.
Sorry for that. So thank you so much. Affordability of these innovations and technology is key. And it is very, very important as well that we ensure that they are readily available for farmers to use. And I will just go back to Dr. Samantha to share how her technology, that is her innovation, that is Fresa Nanotech, what inspired her to this innovation, and how has it changed farmers and processors? How have they used it to deal with post-harvest losses as it is in Uganda, and to see if it's something we can also adopt here in Nigeria. Thank you. Dr. Samantha?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Should I take it again?
Pardon? No, I had your question. I had your question.
Okay,
Thank you very
excellent.
much. Okay, with Fresa, okay, first of all, I'd like to say I really liked Emmanuel's take on innovation and its role, how it should be affordable, because I completely agree with that. The point of innovation is to bring solutions that can actually be used. I think sometimes innovations are quite complicated, and that's what brings about resistance, that's what brings about failure to actually use the kind of innovation that you have come up with. I will say one thing I learned in Rwanda before I give my take on the question is I met with certain farmers, and there's something they mentioned that stuck with me, is that farmers are the real innovators. Every single day on the farm, they're coming up with solutions for the challenges that they're facing. So if you listen really closely, or if you pay attention, with the knowledge you have, with the education you have, you can actually borrow a lot of ideas from them and then, table them in a better way or package them in a better way and you have an innovation. But truly, farmers are the real innovators, because day to day they're solving their own problems without any big companies, without any startups. They are solving their own problems. So we just need to pay attention. I think with Fraser, the key thing for us, and the key impact that we wanted to create with this innovation is basically profitability. And I think it has been mentioned in this webinar time and time again, is profitability. And that's what we are seeing as well. We just want farmers to make more money from their produce. And I think that's a solution. That's the key thing for every innovation that's targeting post-harvest losses. You just want people to benefit more from, the time they put in, the resources they put in. They have to benefit more. And I think just to shift from the survival mode of like subsistence farming to, commercial farming, that makes more sense. And that's when agriculture makes more sense, because you hear people say, oh, how can we bring young people on board? How can we, involve the youth? And it's a lot of talk. But when you look at implementation, you realize that innovation just is the key to implementing, right? Beside the talk, beside the, oh, how can we do this? How can we do this? It's really like, how does it make more money for people? And how can those people learn how to make more money? With our take on farmers and, exporters and agro processors, we just want to give their produce the best outcome, because that's when they can have a better market share, and that's when they can sell their produce for a bigger profit. So that is what our key target is. And the way we created our innovation and the way we created our preservative is that we want it to, first of all, not comply to standards, right? So there's so many chemicals that you can't export with, and so that's a huge disadvantage for you. And when you even talk to exporters in Uganda, you realize that most of these exporters are just not even looking for, because initially when we started with Fraser, there was a lot of talk about can we extend to like a month? Can we extend? How far can we extend this shelf life? But when you talk to exporters, particularly exporters, yes, vendors, yes, farmers, but particularly exporters, these people just want an extra week, because all they need to do is get their produce to whatever country it's getting to. That's it. And sometimes there's flight delays, there's so many delays. So they just want to extend it for a bit to get to that country that it's getting to. And a lot of issues they also face is compliance, like some of the chemicals that are used, some of the preservatives that are used are not allowed in other countries. So when you create an organic solution for them, it makes it better, because now they can move their produce really anywhere while preserving it at the same time. So it helps them deal with regulatory issues, and so that's a key thing for them as well. So what we're trying to do with Fraser, we're just trying to create something that's easy to use, right? That's helps them to, adapt and keep to the regulatory, just have regulatory compliance, right? And as well as push them to further markets and to other markets, broaden their market base, and then help them become more profitable. That is really the key point. At the end of the day, everyone just wants to make a bit more money, and that's what we're here for. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Samantha. I was really moved when you talked about, what the farmers' desire is to see that their produce or exported, and then the use of chemicals actually hampers this. And your innovation is one I am affirmative can drive a lot of progress. And we at Extension Africa, we are open to see how we can partner together. Let me just take part of your submission and then move to Mr. Ilyasu. Mr. Ilyasu, given the submission of Dr. Samantha, just maybe one advice. What is that advice you would give to farmers and processors that are, aspiring to meet export standard, that are trying to meet export standard? They are not yet exporting, but they want to meet export standard. One advice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, I think one of the key things that can really help farmers meet up with these challenges or have their activity enhanced is to be able to scale it, to have scale in their operation. And the best way to do that, the best way to achieve scale is by collaboration and cooperating. So I mean, I will take you on the audience. I'm just working through one of the major grains markets in Boaké, which is a state in Cote d'Ivoire, right? And the level of organization that the farmers have in region like this is quite different from what we really have down there in Nigeria. And I think this helps in helping farmers meet up with all sorts of regulations. If you talk about compliance, quality compliance, if you talk about traceability, energy will agree with me. You see more of that in regions like this rather than in Nigeria. And I think one of the key things that has really enabled them to achieve that is the level of cooperation they have. They have more stronger, farmers cooperative. They have something we call commodity boards. We used to have them in Nigeria, right? I mean, 20 decades ago. I mean, 2 decades ago, until their abolishment. And now we have community association that have replaced such commodity boards. I'm also a member of a number of this association, but the association are basically, it's let's not delve into that. But I think what I just want to establish here is the fact that farmers need to come together. We talk about affordability of attaining this um certification. Um, if you talk about traceability also, I think they will be able to achieve that when they collaborate among themselves. Energy gave example with people that came to certify 20 hectares. It will be extremely expensive for them because virtually there are some fixed costs, that they will incur. And that fixed cost might not really change significantly when you are certifying 20 hectares to compare when you are certifying 200 hectares to even when you are certifying 2,000 hectares. So if farmers come together to collaborate to increase their scale of operation, they can be able to even bring down the cost of this certification. Additionally, they will be able to institute traceability more efficiently than when it's just a few farmers in a community. So, one of my key recommendations or advice or suggestion is to see how we can enhance collaboration, is how we can enhance uh, the ability of farmers working together. And I believe that is an area EXAP is very much working on. Um, I mean, um, to see how we can bring farmers to learn to work among themselves by putting them into cluster, by helping them establish a strong organizational structure, a strong governance structure, so that they can be able to uh, enhance their force, right? That is only when they can be a force to reckon with. If we will have silo, effort, we will not be able to achieve what we have compared to when we have a concerted effort. So I think I would want to strongly give this recommendation and to also see on how we can um, self-regulate ourselves. So, like I said, it's just a coincidence that we're having this webinar when I'm really, really maybe in the field. And it just happened another coincidence that I'm in the middle of one of the major grains market in this location. Every commodity coming to this market must be approved by the market association. They will have to check the quality. They know exactly which cluster of farmers bring this commodity. They know exactly where this is produced, and they make sure that a fair price is being given to this commodity by the off-takers. So you can see they are not government. They are operators, but they are regulating themselves. Just like Energy have given us example with spice producers in the US, right? So we can try and see how we can replicate some of these solutions in the no market. We don't have that. I'm an operator in the no market. In Domo market in Nasarawa, we don't have that. Look, our main issue is that even some of this adulteration even happens at that market level. So the people that you are expecting to like sort of ensure the quality are the one engaging in adulterating the quality. So there is no self-regulation. So I think I am tracing a little about ensuring self-regulation in the activities of the farmers as well as in the activities of the uh, other players. Both aggregators as well as processor organizations. I think that will help us enhance, you know, our traceability compliance. That will help us enhance our quality compliance, and that will amount to having, achieving more profitability. That will amount to building building confidence with our buyers, with our off-takers. That will amount to enhancing our market competitiveness at the international market. I mean, because you agree with me. So let me just give a simple example in 30 or 40 seconds. I have a friend. So it didn't happen with someone that I do not know. It actually happens to a very close friend of mine. He has a company registered in Niger. He has another company registered in Nigeria, and he does export to from these two countries. Um, Maybe if, as you may know, there is some trade barriers that Nigeria faces, especially with China, whereby China sees Nigeria as a high income country and therefore has imposed a 10% import duty on any commodity imported from Nigeria. Whereas countries like Niger and other landlocked countries, China have classified those countries as a low income country and therefore waive the import duty on those countries. So we have a lot of exporters in Nigeria that export commodities to China, but they use Nigerian companies. So as you may know, part of the document required for export is certificate of origin. So they do change certificate of origin to indicate that the goods are coming from Niger. So this, my friend, it's the same commodity. He bought the same commodity, the same from the same market, from the same people. He processed it in his warehouse. Then he had 10 containers. 5 containers, he exported them under the Nigerian name. 5 containers, he exported them under the Nigerian name. He exported them to the same country, to the same buyer. At the port of entry, the containers from Nigeria were rejected that they have salmonella, whereas the containers from Niger were accepted. So, I don't know. So this just speaks to confidence and trust. So, if at all there is salmonella in the 5 containers that were exported in the name of the Nigerian company, you should expect to have same because these commodities were, all the 10 containers were the same commodity, procured from the same location, processed in the same warehouse, and stuffed in the container from the same location. But the fact that this come from Nigeria, it amount to further scrutiny at the port, which made them to, discover the contamination. Whereas the containers from Niger, because it's Niger, the trust the buyers have for Niger appears to be higher compared to trust that they have for Nigeria. And possibly, oh, it's Niger. No need for us to check, no need for further scrutiny. And that is how those commodities were allowed. So this is really a call to action for Nigerian players. both the government and the private sector and all the players to see how can we redeem our image at the international market, because this is affecting our competitiveness. So now
Right.
goods from Nigeria will be rejected, whereas goods from other countries will be accepted, even if they are of the same quality, just because of the opinion of the buyer, just because of the trust, just because of the confidence. So that is why it's very, very important for us to work on how we can enhance our quality compliance, how we can enhance traceability. Because if we have traceability in this, we can easily address some of these quality issues. And by doing that, we can, further build more confidence, with our buyers. So,
Yes.
I will call for further collaboration among all stakeholders. And this is why this webinar organized by you guys appears to be very important, because it has created room for discussion. And I believe a concrete action is likely to follow after the seminar. One of the key things is I will definitely engage energy on continuing that conversation on how can we develop our own standards and make them or get them approved and certified in the international market to have equivalent of NOP, EU, or GAC. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eliasu. And I can announce to us that right now the questions are already coming in, and we are already done with the sections we were supposed to discuss. We'll just take 2 or 3 questions and then we will call it a day. So I think the first question is for you, Madam Yemisi. So the question is, given you are a guru in the cassava sector, what has your firm done to, still maintain that farmers, that's ag grower clusters network in this era of insecurity? So let me take that again. We can hear you as a cassava guru. What has your firm done to maintain outgrower farmers and cluster network in this era of insecurity? Now that we are faced with insecurity, what has your company do to ensure that farmers, most especially outgrower, can still maintain quality in their production? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. So we've done several things. First of all, is to make the farmers work together in clusters. So you don't just have 1 acre in one forest somewhere and the herdsmen are moving, they don't know your farm is there and they enter into it and eat it up. So we put the farmers together at a minimum of 25 acres each. So it's a sizable farm. Number 2, we ensure that farmers do trace, we'll call it to clear the edges of their farm. I've forgotten the name we call it. Jesus Christ, I've forgotten the name we call it. Where you clear the edges of your farm like 1 meter away, that at least the farmers and the herdsmen are able to enter into a clear farm before they get into your farm. So there's a decision not to eat it, not that, oh, we didn't know there was a farm there and then we entered into it. 3 is that we do a signboard where we give our farmers, because they are in clusters, so they're able to put some signboards there and we write it in a language that they can understand with some pictures of cows and a cross. That also, to some extent, we put it from the junction that is a bit far from the farm as an indicator to say, don't enter here, there's a big farm there. 3, we formed a committee of the Fulani leaders, Sultry, and representative of farmers and police. Okay, so that we meet regularly, monthly, and we discuss issues, and then we are able to educate them, their leaders, on things around our farms, the value of the farms and all that. Now, where a cow, a herdsman enter into a farm, the guy is brought to the committee and adequate judgment given to him by the team. And we see this has really, really, really reduced the rate at which they enter into farms and eat them up. 4 is a radio station. We have a radio station program where we talk about the relationship between farmers and herdsmen. We think that has also helped us to be able to reduce this the rate at which they randomly just enter farms, except those the nomadic ones, the ones that just walk past, that don't have a place to stay. Those are the ones we still have issues with. But then the ones that are in the villages help us to track those ones down most of the time. Because now even the herdsmen themselves, some of the herdsmen are equally our farmers. So what we do is, in an environment when we are gathering farmers and initiating farmers, we make sure that these herdsmen are part of our farmers. So they help like a security also. They help they know the value of the farms. So first of all, you are sure that, okay, the community cows will not go and eat your farm, because some of them also have farms and they know the value, and some of them are equally farming in the same cluster. So you see, we just use diplomacy to handle this. There's no one size fits all. It's different things put together that we have used to control the rate of herdsmen entering the various farms. And we are always there to support our farmers. If a farmer comes to report that cows have entered this farm, what we do is to help them, support them with the police, ensure that we give them all the adequate support behind them, with them, to be able to bring the culprit to book. So knowing that the farmers have big brother or big sister behind them, or a big company behind them, it has also reduced the rate at which they get molested or they get cheated. Because most of the time is that when they go to the police, they don't get justice. This guy just sell one cow and is able to raise 500,000 to do whatever he wants to do with the police. My farmer still has his cassava, it's not even ready for harvesting. But most of the time we go there and we're able to put our weight behind the farmers, and do think that has also helped us to control the rate at which once they see the signboard, they say, don't go there, go, once you see, and it's the same signboard, same picture, same color. So when they see, they know that if you go there, you will pay. There's no how, you can't run away. But if you sell one cow, that company does not sell any cow to support their family. So that's one of the things that we have done.
Really exciting. Thank you so much. I think the next question is for you, Mr. Emmanuel Neju. Zayanu Rabiu is asking that how can local farmers get access to the National Organic Program certification? That's NOP. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So this is part of the things we had in mind at the time we started. We realized that based on the context, our own environment, where most farmers are smallholder farmers, we thought of what to do, and what we came up with was there is what is called smallholder certification. And smallholder certification has to do with certifying producers as a group. So what is basically obtainable within that certification is a group of smallholder farmers can come together and form a group. When they form a group, what that does is it helps to spread the cost of certification, and therefore the unit cost that each person gets to contribute to that certification becomes very minimal, right? So the conditions required is that they form a group and then they go into similar production. So they have similar production practices, so that we are able to ensure that they have tried to put standards within their production. They are checking each other and ensuring that each person is complying with the requirements of the standard. Currently, as I speak with you, I'm just coming from auditing a group like that, where there are about 2,000 soybeans farmers. So it's a grower group audit that I've just finished. I'm supposed to have a closing meeting with them this afternoon, and we encourage it. Farmers can come together, put their resources together. That way, it makes it very easy for them to get the National Organic Program certification or whichever other certifications that they might be interested in, whether the EU Organic Regulation certification or that of the US, which is the NOP that our attendee is asking about. And I think maybe we can also have some conversation after now. For want of time in the course of the meeting, I might not be able to give all of the details that are required. But after this meeting, of course, we would have the luxury of time and I can explain a lot better and guide whoever is interested on the process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Neje. Lots of questions coming in, but given our time, we'll not be able to take much. have questions from Mr. Bahawu. But we'll just channel these questions to the right speaker who will share their thoughts. I think we'll give the last question to Dr. Samantha. So Mariam is asking if that she's highly interested in your nanotechnology and how the presentation can reduce post-harvest losses, and also would like to connect with you on LinkedIn. We are going to do that. Dr. Samantha would like you to respond to the last question and to also, so we can bring this webinar to a close. So, and the question will be, what's one big shift we need to see in rural supply chain over the next 5 years? What's that one big shift we need to see in rural supply chain over the next 5 years? Thank you.
Can you hear or see me? I don't know, my network.
I can hear you and I can see you as well.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know why my camera is stuck in one place, but okay, I'll just go audio.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one big thing that we need to see. There's so many small things that have to come together to align in the supply chain. I think I'll go back to my initial submission, is that a lot of the solutions we must see must start with farmers at the beginning of the supply chain. It's really hard to change things in between or at the end when, you know, usually like at the tail end of the supply chain, you have to put your best foot forward. And a lot of the times that particular shiny vegetable or that particular good quality fruit or those good quality seeds, it starts at the beginning. Having the right supplier, having the right fertilizers, having the right preservative methods, they all like sum up to like having the best quality at the end of the day. So all the solutions must start at the beginning. And I do know that a lot of the regulation and a lot of regulatory practices usually come in like I don't know about Nigeria, but many times in Uganda, they come in later on. And them walking the journey with these people from the beginning is the most important thing. So I think it's not one big thing. I think it's so many small things. And most of the solutions should start at the beginning. There's digital solutions, and those digital solutions really do help. For example, Extension Africa has given us the opportunity to have this kind of webinar where we've had from people that are within these regulatory bodies, and they've given information to people. And so that is a very key thing. But I think also innovations that help in the day-to-day of how do we continue to comply to these regulations are very key. Further Nanotech is just one of them, but there's so many others, right? There's so many other startups that have come into place. There are people coming up with amazing biofertilizers that really do, at the end of the day, give good quality crops. And, people have come up with good quality seed, and all these things are tailored to suit a farmer and to suit the farmer from the start. And so they can't fail along the way because they have begun with the good quality. So another thing I'll also emphasize, because I don't want to keep repeating myself, because I think I have at some point, but it's very important to inform people, because for me, I have suffered the tail end of not having information, and also maybe information coming in bits, which is a huge challenge in Uganda. A lot of the information comes in bits and pieces. It's important to have most of the information to begin with, so that you do not blunder at the end of the day. So I think a very huge thing is to have innovations that, number one, do provide information, and number two, go down in the trenches day to day and create products that actually are complying with this regulation. Those are practical steps versus like having this one big thing that, is going to magically change the supply chain. So yeah, that is my take on it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Samantha. There are a lot of questions, but like I said, we just channeled the questions to our speakers to respond to them accordingly. So I think with this brings us to the end of the webinar. At this point, I would call on all the audience if we can, turn on our cameras to, take a screenshot of pictures of all the attendees. Also, this session has been recorded, so the link will be shared and all the questions you've raised will be channeled to the speakers to respond to them accordingly. Please, can we just turn on our cameras? Everyone on the call, can we please turn on our cameras? Thank you. Okay, great. Great. So thank you to our visionary leaders and sector experts. We are very, very delighted to have you join us on this webinar. We look forward to meeting and connecting with you and also to extend this partnership beyond this webinar. Thank you, everyone, and do have a lovely day ahead.
Thank you. Have a lovely
Thank
day
you,
ahead.
Alex.
Bye.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.